Hello, everyone, and welcome to Herbal Happy Hour. My name is Emily. I'm from Artemisia Academy. I'm the director, and I'm here with two lovely herbalists today to talk about how important nutrition is in the world of herbalism and how we use nutritional protocols in our practice. So, just a quick little go around. Let's introduce ourselves and then jump on in. Amy, go for it.
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm a clinical herbalist in Westminster, Maryland. I have an herb farm. My business is Wildwoman Medicine. I specialize in sleep and anxiety and digestive related issues. Um, yeah, that's about me.
Abby?
Hi, I'm Abby Artemisia, no relation. And I am the founder executive director of the Wander School in Asheville, North Carolina. This is my apothecary. And I teach about foraging sustainably and herbalism. I do client consultations with herbalism and also teach foraging and focus on women's health and peri-menopause in my client practice.
Thanks so much, Abby. Yeah, and I'm Emily Watson. I'm in Southern California, in Santa Barbara to be exact. And the Artemisia Academy is a school that offers three online herbal training programs and entrepreneurship training as well. So I've had a clinical practice for probably over 10, 15 years now. And yeah, I'm excited to talk with you all about food talks because we were just talking before this about how sometimes when we work with our herbal clients, they are awesome and they're like, yeah, let's dive into food. And sometimes they get a little scared off by it because they didn't expect an herbalist to do it. So, yeah, um, I know my first herbal consultation that I went with someone else. I had no idea that herbalists talked about food. I have no idea when I went to herb school that we talk about food. So, what about you guys? Like, yeah, let's just dive on in.
Well, my background at MUIH was in herbalism, but there were a lot of food and nutrition courses built in. So I had a good amount of nutrition classes and we talked about food a lot. So for me, that being my main educational experience when it came to herbalism at the beginning. I just figured it was always like married. I just didn't even realize like that it wasn't something that kind of went together, even though we focused on the herbs at a certain point in my track, obviously, more than food. It was at the base and the foundation of our classes. And so that actually makes a lot of sense now because even when I'm working with people, it's such an important question to like ask what that foundation for them is like, sleep, food, hydration, that kind of thing, and diet. And I think people just get really caught up in the word diet. And then they think that, like, I'm going to put you on a diet. But when I'm using the word diet, I'm more asking about the specifics of the food that your intake is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Amy, that was totally what I was going to say. My teacher, Leslie Williams, said that recommended it's better to ask people about their nutrition than their diet for that very reason. And I think we just live in a culture where there's so much stigma around food. And we also live in fast food culture and current society of overwhelm and overwork, and people don't have time to cook. But I have cooked from a young age, and food is super important to me. I've worked on farms, and so I think that's where a lot of my food education came from and food awareness. And so it's really important to me, and also being someone who is on the land so much. And of course, as a forager, every forager I know is a giant foodie. So I am usually looking at it from that perspective. Um, and I think, you know, also that supplements work way differently in the body than food does. And so I think for most herbalists I know, we try to recommend supplements last and focus on food first and herbs because herbs act like food in the body when they're not standardized. And that's a whole other conversation.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think too, just like I love food and it just has, I mean, it is really stigmatized. And because also, like, if you're someone who identifies as a woman, especially, in our culture, like weight is so stigmatized and the female body. Um, but yeah, I think, some of us have a huge connection to our culture and some of us don't. And so when we can learn where our ancestors are from, it's like amazing to me that we still, like, our DNA has not changed very much. And so for those of us who are living in a country that our ancestors were not from, you know, the food that we're taking in might not be the food that our body most wants.
Mm.
I so know that because it's like I end up talking a lot with my students and my clients about food sensitivities. And like, if you are, this is my favorite thing, everyone's like, oh, I eat coconut oil. It's really healthy. It's really great for you. Why? Because people say it is. Well, if you're ancestrally from the European region, where in your ancestry did you guys grow up getting used to eating coconut? And so I see so often like people of European ancestry having coconut sensitivities and they're living off of it. And so even though it's an anti-inflammatory food for maybe some people, it may not be specifically for you, depending on where your ancestral roots come from. Or like I'm Germanic on one side and Mexican on the other. My Mexican side loves nightshade, spicy peppers, and all the good tomato, whatever stuff. And that's all New World plants. So like Mexicans that have a mix of indigenous, race in them, which a lot of them do, tolerate nightshades really well. But my European Germanic side, no one in Germany has spice whatsoever. They like are the most intolerant to nightshades of most of the European groups. And so it's so funny because like my body loves the flavor, but when I live off of it all the time, I get bloated, I get achy, I get like skin issues, like it just all blows up. And so, like whenever we work with clients, like I'm often looking at like what's the underlying cause. And even though I know that it took me a decade and a half to divorce myself of some of these foods that cause me inflammation, I know that eventually when I work with people, we'll eventually have to talk about it. It just might be a while before we can talk about it because we have to develop trust and, build up a rapport enough so that we can actually get to that deeper stuff.
It's so much easier to get somebody to buy into drinking even a nasty tasting tea than it is to ask them to change their diet or food intake. Oh my gosh, like that's a skill that I don't have, I feel like, to convince people like, let's try not having as much gluten or something.
So I would like to ask like on your guys' like journey, like how long did it take you to apply some of these food nutritional recommendations that you've heard in your lessons?
I'm gonna skip. Skip.
Because it's changing your diet is like changing your identity, right?
Yeah, it's very true. I think that's a really good point that we could liken it to quitting drinking, because it's a lifestyle and it very much changes just the same as like I have clients who have quit drinking and it changes their friend group because it changes their lifestyle because they don't want to hang out in bars anymore. It's no longer fun or comfortable. Um, it's like that in some ways if you quit gluten. And I think gluten is the biggest one for most folks, right? And like to not eat pizza, or to eat gluten-free pizza, like it limits some of the things that you can do and places you can go. And like speaking of pizza, I found out several years ago, like my ancestry is like 98% Eastern European Jew, like literally 98%. And I found out that the majority of Eastern European Jews are lactose intolerant. And I have found it to be true over and over again, like my family and so many people I know. I think like one, you have to decide how uncomfortable are you willing to be? Like, what are you willing to sacrifice? But also, if we can look at it maybe not as a sacrifice, but as something we're doing for ourselves. And so my big thing has been like just like if I were to pull the invasives out of my garden, the invasive plants, I'm not just going to leave it sit. I'm going to plant something else there to take its place. And so, what can we add into our diet that is going to make it feel like it's not a sacrifice? Like, where can I find joy? That's my biggest thing on my path right now for myself and my clients. Where can I find joy? And like, I'm also, I'm curious how y'all feel about this. I feel like so many people actually have a hard time with chocolate. Like
A
for
lot of
sleep.
cross-reactive proteins that people are sensitive to. So if you guys haven't heard that term, it's like there are certain proteins that your body will still react to, even though it's not the main thing you're allergic to or sensitive to. It's like similar enough that the body still reacts. So chocolate's definitely one of those, like, it makes you bloated or it makes you inflamed, even though it's not your potential main food allergen. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, for digestion, for sleep, for skin, like those things, like chocolate is going to potentially really affect them. And like how many of us came from a culture where chocolate was actually grown? Um, but what can we choose instead? So like I came up with an awesome carob chia pudding recipe.
That
And
recipe.
yeah, but also like, we have to live in the real world, right? We travel, we do holidays, and so things can come in like enzymes and bitters and things like that, so that we're not like we're still getting to experience those things sometimes, or we're coming up with alternatives for them. And like, let's be real, sometimes for some of us, the alternatives like non-dairy milk or like the alternative grains can sometimes be worse for some people than like wheat or milk. So just I think like anytime we use blanket statements, it's never gonna be helpful. Like just quit eating wheat and dairy and meat and then feel better. Like that's just never gonna work for everybody. And that's what makes us herbalists, because we have to be detectives and it's really hard work, and like people should pay us a lot more. Just saying.
And it's just the balance too. Like if you don't have a severe allergic reaction to a food, I find that it's okay for a lot of people to just find that balance. But I thought it was interesting what you were saying, Abby, about like the kind of vocabulary and the connotation to be like exclusive versus inclusive of food. So rather than saying like stop this or don't that, instead like increase your this, like increase your greens or whatever, you know what I mean? Because that way, if you are increasing a certain thing, like hopefully maybe they will have less of the other thing. So it's interesting how that can even change somebody's outlook. But I think a lot of people are not aware of the difference between food sensitivity and a food allergy, which are really two different things. But that's like a whole other thing. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting, and I think we're living in an interesting time with like the variations of things you can try in lieu of something else too. And now, I mean, people who have the finances to do it, who can just have like a not, made, but packaged, meal delivered to you where it's all cut up or it's all like measured out and all you got to do is like heat up a pan. Like that's pretty awesome. I think we have a lot of interesting options these days, but yeah, not just because it's like vegan or if it's like, vegetarian does not make it healthier or non-dairy because of all the other additives that are
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. I know when I work with people with food sensitivities, I often do like I call it like a 6-month plan, not like you're not going to quit this overnight, because I know it took me like 10 years to quit some foods, but I do like 2 months of like observation, just be like, hey, eat it as much as you want, eat a ton of it and see how you feel. And that so often like having that cause and effect, like You can give people all the herbs you want, but if their underlying issue is an inflammation from a food that they're eating every single day, no herb is going to fix it. And so I let people binge off of it and have all those reactions. Because I know anytime people talk about my food sensitivities, I turn around and then eat more of it. It's like a natural react. I don't know about you guys, but like anyone's ever, if everyone's like, don't eat chocolate, like I literally would go and eat like 10 times more chocolate. And so like I observe for a little bit. We let them like explore it, feel it, see what's actually going on in their body. Like we as clinicians might see the underlying pattern from the very beginning of like, oh, your gut's off, your skin's going to be off, or your moods, or your hormones, or your liver, but they may not see that reaction. So they have to get the proof. And then I spent a couple months doing like, all right, let's explore all the alternatives so that what dairy-free milk tastes like, and you might have to try almond and then soy and then rice and then like hemp and figure out what you actually like, or how to order at restaurants, or how to be around your family around holiday season and make all those mistakes. And then we then start to do elimination, like after that huge phase is done. Like once you know how to eat differently, then you can start trying to live without it. Because it takes a long time, like I said, to like change that identity and change your social and behavioral patterns. I love, Abby, that you're talking about like, alcohol removal and how that changes our effect in society. It's like telling people you don't eat sugar. That's another huge one of like, God, I can't tell you how many family members have been like, oh, just a little bit, just one, just like, and it's obsessive that people want to then change how you're eating because you're not eating like them. And you have to figure out the emotional things that go with it when you're eating differently.
So personal.
Very personal, very triggering, right?
And I think it's like everything else, it's a spectrum, right? Like just because you need to eliminate something right now doesn't necessarily mean you have to eliminate it forever. It might be that you work on your gut issues and heal your gut, and then you can eat a wider array of foods because they're like, I learned from Jim McDonald, in great herbalist in Michigan, this word called orthorexia. And we can get to the other extreme. I think especially some of us who are herbalists, because we usually got here oftentimes because we had health issues. And we get to the point where we can eliminate so many things that there's nothing left, and we're having so much anxiety about eating anything because we know too much, right? Like this causes inflammation and this can cause digestive issues or whatever, that we have anxiety every time we eat. And as our dear friend Erica McCrum said, who is in these videos sometimes, it's like sometimes you just need to take a few deep breaths before you eat. And like that's going to be better than anything else that you could do. So sometimes we just have to be like, okay, well, I'm a human. I have to eat food. And so I'm just gonna, do whatever belief works for you. For me, like take some deep breaths and bless it real good and, all good.
I think that's why I like working with herbalists more than nutritionists, actually, is because so often nutritionists are very structured, like, here's your plate and here's all the things you should eat in the perfect world. And herbalists, I feel like, are a little bit more like, well, it sounds like your nervous system is really overwhelmed. So maybe you're doing too much. Maybe you should do nothing this month. Maybe you should just work on breathing and calming down, or take a nervine tea, and then we'll work on your gut. Then we'll work on your food, because it's a whole picture, whole person approach.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love the whole, and this is usually where I start with people is if I need to really focus on the food part, I'll talk about eating the rainbow. And I just think that's such an easy way to make sure you're getting like natural colors, not like obviously artificial, but just to see how balanced that plate is or each day. Like, did you eat everything? Like, was it all orange today or yellow or white or whatever? Like that's probably a problem. So like, where are your blues and reds and things like that? So I think little tips that are easy for people to digest, as like I did that.
It was great.
I'm so punny. I just think it's starting small with that is good. And then some people are into it and they're open to it. Like I was working with someone with SIBO and we were doing like a low FOD map, and that's a big ask, man. Like low FOD map for real for weeks is a big ask and never something I would want to do with anybody longer than, 4 to 6 weeks or whatever it was. But like some people can do that and some people are just, they can't. Like I couldn't, I know me and I probably would not be able to do that very well. So I think that different people are at different stages of their healing journey when it comes to some of these things, but God love them if they can do a low fight.
I think that's like also the other realistic thing is like, when we work with herbalists, like it's not like a one time, okay, I'm gonna get a pill or a food plan or whatever. It's like this is an evolving, like we're holding people through the healing journey, and that takes weeks, months, sometimes years to unfold. And looking at the whole person means we're holding space for all the different aspects, the physical, the psychological, the emotional. Like sometimes people are like, I've got all these issues, but I'm not in a place to do all this right now. And we get to support that bigger picture.
Yeah, I think that's important too, is to remember whether you're seeing a doctor or an herbalist, that it's important that you advocate for yourself and say, this is what I'm willing to do, and this is what I'm not willing to do. This feels good, this feels bad, and know that it takes a while. And it really is like, in some ways, like the medical system. Like, I think a lot of people expect in the medical system to take a pill and feel better, but like, how often is that actually the case where that works? It
100%.
often takes a long time, and along the way, adjusting the medication dosage, or we try different medication, or well, that's better, but now we need to work on this. And herbalism uses a holistic, for real, like whole body and whole mind and whole soul approach, as Emily said. And like it's also, it's like it's just a weird time that we live in. We have access to such a wide range of food that we never had access to before, and more people are eating a more limited diet than ever before. So
It's wild.
Interesting time to be alive and be an herbalist.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would love to round us out real quick with some call outs for fun things that we're working on, because I know we all got things to do today. But thank you guys for chatting for a second about food talks and why herbalists always, pretty much always, eventually talk about food with our clients. Yeah, tell us what's going on with you guys this month, and what are some fun things to look out for in your future?
Go ahead, Abby.
Sure. Well, I just
Cool days.
I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing.
I just released my brand new program that I'm super excited about, called Foraging School. And we're going to have spring session, summer session, fall session. So spring session right now is open for registration. And my friend Beck and I are leading the group. It is 5 days during spring, always on Thursdays, and for a few hours in the morning to early afternoon here in Asheville. And we go out, we take a plant walk, we do some foraging, and then we cook, and the best part, eat. So that's super exciting. And also, I'm just really focusing so much on perimenopause right now, and really enjoying it, because I have a super unique view, because I'm right smack dab in the middle of it, and just noticing that there's not a lot of support out there for folks in perimenopause, whether it be people who just want to go naturally, or people who want to take HRT and also supplement with herbs and food and other things. And so I created a group on Facebook called the PM Club, P/M, and then in parentheses, peri/menopause club. And it's been really great. Lots of people have been joining, and we support each other on our journey. There's learning opportunities, and I'll be teaching. We'll have a free group gathering virtually, and then I'll be teaching a class on peri-menopause virtually as well.
Super exciting. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about that class as it gets going. And your foraging class sounds like a ton of fun. I wish I lived in your state, but we'll be putting it on the links below so you guys can access it too. So,
And I will plug myself now because now I looked at my sheet and know what I'm doing. But I have, so spring and summer for me get really, really busy with different things that I have going on in the farm and everything. But I am trying to squeeze in some more clients if I can. So I have a promotional opportunity. If you want to book a consult with me for an initial intake and follow-up package, you can get 15% off of that for the month of, well, starting from now until April 1st. So about the month of March. And if you put the word spring in all caps when you are booking that, you can get 15% off of a package with me. But I'm also teaching some online classes coming up in March. One is a peri-menopause webinar, which is on March 3rd. I don't know if this is going to get out in time for that or not, but I'm also teaching a spring transition and fire cider making class online, and that's at the end of March on the 25th. And you can find information for either of those on my website, or I'm probably going to record those and people can purchase the recordings if they want. So yeah.
that'll be awesome. Congratulations. Thank you for the awesome classes that you're offering too. And since there's all these perimenopause classes happening, I think we're gonna have to have like a bundle later on. We'll post that once we figure it out. But I think we're all gonna have to put our fertility, hormonal, perimenopause stuff together because we're all doing so many good talks on it. Coming up for Artemisia Academy, we have a quarterly clinical roundtable coming up in March. I'll put the dates and links down below. So if anyone wants to have fun clinical talks like this or wants to discuss one of their cases anonymously and talk about like what's going on, how to deal with it, what kind of protocols or herbal formulas you guys need, it's a great place to talk with other herbalists and just get some mentoring and some peer support. So we'll be offering that an upcoming Tuesday. I can't remember the date right at the moment, guys, but it'll be coming up later this month. And then we will be opening up our summer Intro to Plant ID course soon. So I'll have details and links down below so you guys can jump into that as well. So looking forward to having many more fun chats with you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. And yeah, looking forward to whatever fun chats we have next round. So thanks for joining us, you guys, and we'll see you later. Thanks, guys.
Bye.